Hello, I'm Adam, your COO of BlampCo Incorporated, putting the arse in smart arse since 2015. April 12th, 2015, my first written article appeared on WhatCulture.com, an article entitled 10 Ways WWE Can Make the IC Title White Hot by WrestleMania 32. One thing led to another, and here we are, 10 years later. Hopefully wiser, definitely balder, and with a small but constant background pain in my right hip that when I went to see a doctor about, they said, "That's just your hip now. Sorry about that." Could be worse. I could be the great Carly's knees or Mick Foley's everything, and I still have all my own teeth, and from the looks of them, many other people's. And bizarrely, I have a renewed love of wrestling still. So hell, while I've got thoughts in my head and people willing to watch, I'm going to keep yapping about wrestling board games and whatever else, and we'll just see how that goes. With 10 years going past since I started this ridiculous career, and 10 being a number I've carved that incomprehensible career out of, let's take a walk down memory lane, albeit putting slightly less pressure on our right leg than we used to, and look back on the last decade of pro wrestling. I'm going to give you my 10 favorite things to have happened in wrestling since 2015, one for each year since I first smugged my way onto this godforsaken platform. Quick thing to say about the platform, I hate YouTube ads and what chasing views does to the human brain, so I voluntarily demonetized this channel. Hopefully the only ad you will hear are the ones that I do for my BlampCo Patreon, patreon.com/Adam Blampier, where you can help us keep the lights on, find heaps of exclusive content like a WCPW WWE Invasion booking that I did that I'm weirdly proud of, and even commission your very own top 10 or whatever you like if you're feeling froggy. Enough of that, on with the show. 2015, the role models. Although there have been rumors that women's wrestling had already existed in the Badlands of TNA and this mysterious otherworld called, checks notes, Japan, it wasn't until Stephanie McMahon descended from Mount Sinai in 2015 with the names Charlotte, Becky, and Sasha on stone tablets that the wheels set in motion for the heroic company known as WWE to save women's wrestling from the dastardly company known as WWE. Women's wrestling was in an awful fucking state in WWE before 2015. Butterfly belt matches relegated to the piss break spot on the card, although not even a young man could finish pissing in the infamous 30 seconds it took for the Bellas to beat Paige and Emma in February of 2015. A hashtag later, WWE staged the Divas Revolution, and although that was about as appropriate as a doctor cracking you over the head with a hammer, then bragging about being the first one to kiss it better, at least change did actually go on to happen, with NXT leading the charge with the now mythical feud of Sasha Banks versus Bayley, who'd go on to become the Golden Role Models. Their match at TakeOver Brooklyn made them the Flair and Steamboat of their day. They would always be revolving around each other in one form until Sasha left. And their main event Iron Woman match at TakeOver Respect, it had my favorite spot of the year, and in fact, my favorite spot of most years, Sasha Banks making Izzy cry by stealing her headband. Hooray for children's tears. Everyone knows that Bayley versus Sasha Banks was good and important, but never forget that it was also fucking fun. Runner-up, the heist of the century, saving us all from the most dreaded Mania main event, at least until the next fucking year. 2016, Thin Lads Go Fast. The moment where WWE took a long look at the indie scene in the UK, the lucha scene in Mexico, and the Puroreso scene in Japan and said, okay, fine. They announced a Cruiserweight Classic, a kayfabe open invitational indie-rific tournament of 32 top competitors from around the world, and let them have 15-minute matches in front of a hot NXT crowd, featuring Gargano and Ciampa's first singles match in WWE, Daniel Bryan getting very excited about a burning hammer. Cedric Alexander casting a Daddy Bear summoning spell. Kota fucking Ibushi blowing our minds with his body hairless brilliance, and TJ Perkins winning a child-sized globe because he's a child-sized guy, mixing heartfelt, brilliantly edited promos for each competitor, genuinely enthusiastic commentary from Mauro fucking Ranallo and Daniel fucking Bryan, a buttload of indie talent. Fans said, that was great, when can we have another one? And WWE tousled our hair, smiled, and then went out to buy cigarettes, and that was 9 years ago. Vince & Co. quickly put paid to the Cruiserweight division's momentum with the poorly formatted 205 Live and slapping the belt on this drug-addled rooster, but we'll always have the CWC, I suppose. Runner-up, AJ Styles lives up to the hype in WWE and hashtag beats up John Cena. 2017, Okada and Omega give Dave Meltzer a tingle in his little Percy Pringle. Throughout most of 2017, WWE's top champions were Universal Champion Brock Lesnar, whose title run was largely a 404 error, and WWE Champion Jinder Mahal. And you know what? It was just nice to see something different, wasn't it? Meanwhile, in Japan, IWGP champion Kazuchika Okada and Kenny Omega were having what some smelly weebs are calling the greatest pro wrestling feud of all time. While their big 2 out of 3 full 7-star blow-off match wouldn't take place until 2018, this year saw Okada and Omega wrestle a beautiful match at Wrestle Kingdom, a bewilderingly epic 60-minute draw at Dominion, and a crazy intense encounter in the G1 climax. One by one, they met a mere 3 times, yet clocked in over 2 hours of in-ring action and netting a grand total of 18.5 stars out of a potential 15, breaking Dave Meltzer's handle on observable reality for the rest of time. In an era where WWE was growing ever more baffling with their big dog experiments, their maggots on the ring, and their criminal lack of fucking hindering, more so than ever, 2017 was the year where hardcore fans turned to their Lord and Savior Kenny Omega and his critically acclaimed feud that laid the groundwork for a new wrestling promotion that at this point was just a twinkle in some EVP's eyes. Runner-up, Braun Strowman isn't finished with Roman Reigns. Remember that bit? It was fucking lovely. Oh well. 2018, the man comes around. For a wrestling company whose job it is to make hot new stars, WWE really didn't seem to like it when they ended up making a hot new star. Sometimes wrestling fans will respond to a wrestler that they really like by chanting their name and buying up all their merch, and WWE take that incredibly personally, whether it's Daniel Bryan, Zack Ryder, CM Punk, or in this case, Becky Lynch. 2018 was a real bad year for WWE gang. The Samoa Joe Roman Reigns match that saw people visibly leaving early, 2018. HBK ruining his retirement to have history's tiredest match for blood money, 2018. Bobby Lashley's sisters, 2018. Holy shit, is that Max Caster? Point is, by midway through the year, we were all praying for a little bit of wrestling magic to pick up our spirits and remind us why we kept returning to our grim master's hand. And that's when Becky Lynch turned, biggest air quotes in the world, heel, and the dam broken after years of Becky just getting on by and smiling at life's myriad indignities. Fans exploded in support for her, finally telling Charlotte to fuck off. The shot of her bloodied and defiant before Survivor Series 2018 was the kind of anti-hero glory that we hadn't seen since Steve Austin, a reminder that on Vince's watch, cool things do happen, more by accident than by design, but we'll take what we can fucking get at this point. Runner-up, Ciampa and Gargano's very good, very bad friendship, and also Daniel Bryan versus Lesnar. Holy shit. 2019, AEW is born. Good times forever. In 2018, All In became the first independent wrestling show to sell more than 11,000 tickets out of pure spite when Dave Meltzer double dog dared Cody and friends to do it, and they played their Uno reverse card. 4 months later, Cody, the Bucks, and Kenny Omega set out to form their very own new company with Tony Khan, and very helpfully for the gimmick of this list, on January 1st, 2019, AEW was officially announced with Double or Nothing, Fyter Fest, Fight for the Fallen, and All Out following from May to August, with AEW's flagship TV show Dynamite finally launching in October. With that final piece in place, AEW was a fully functioning competitor to WWE, and not since WCPW launched in 2016 has the Fed ever been running as scared. I'm 80% joking. While All Elite Wrestling would occasionally show its inexperience with dodgy audio, bad health and safety calls, and whatever this was supposed to be, lightning remained trapped in the bottle for literal years. WWE was airing Seth Rollins versus The Fiend in October 2019, and riding on those sewage flood waters, AEW was a life raft cobbled together from pro wrestling's emotionally sincere past and mimetic acrobatic future. Regardless of what you think of its backstage drama and weekly TV, AEW still puts on some of the greatest wrestling supercards in the world. Actually, their TV's been getting really good recently, so we can't even complain about that anymore. And their existence remains a very good thing for the industry, even as WWE has re-raised its game in recent years. Emphasis on the word game. Runner-up, TakeOver New York, and Kofi Mania before WWE ruined it. 2020, the Tribal Chief. It would be very nice if we could just lock pandemic wrestling away in a time capsule, stamp super awesome wrestling on the side, and mail it to our worst fucking enemy. I first returned to wrestling in February 2020, and the industry responded by breaking for a year. And none taken, I suppose. So began the weird times, the Braun Strowman drowning in a swamp times, the Rey Mysterio getting thrown off a roof times, the Drew winning the WWE Championship in abject fucking silence times, when the greatest crowd entertainment ever created was reduced to vaguely panicked and uncomfortable wrestlers performing in front of alien grids of randos pantomiming positive gifts at corporate gunpoint as WWE piped in the ghostly ambience of invisible crowds. It was like wrestling had a stroke and had to learn how to be wrestling again, and it was so fucking weird. And yet, as much as we'd like to forget it all, at SummerSlam 2020, Roman Reigns returned looking like he'd spent lockdown eating Colgate straight from the fucking tube, and turned heel of all things, morphing into the Tribal Chief, what will likely go on record as the most significant gimmick of the 2020s in their entirety, starting a title run that would last for 4 fucking years. After years of asking, WWE turned Roman heel in the pandemic, and so began a bizarre but magical time where Roman Reigns matches became these weird Shakespearean epics of fratricide blood oaths and endless weeping. In a way, WWE got to be what it always wanted to be, a meticulously curated soap opera where even the fan reactions could be programmed to the second. Runner-up, the Firefly Funhouse, and just Drew fucking McIntyre and the Golden Role Models. Those guys held WWE on their fucking backs for so long. Please give Drew a proper title run in front of people. 2021, CM Punk versus MJF. Good times forever. CM Punk arrived in AEW in 2021, and my goodness, did he look happy. That happily would not be ever after. For a time, CM Punk and AEW, though, did seem like a match made in heaven, one of the best and most authentic sounding talkers in a promotion that seemed to be populated by real, authentic people rather than talking action figures where you pull the cord in their back and they tell you to believe that. Prior to Punk's arrival, the best talk in AEW was unquestionably MJF. What happened when every bad trait of all your ex-boyfriends merged together, gained sentience, and then went to business school. Fans salivated at the prospect of the two locking microphones, and in November 2021, they finally did it, and it was everything that we wanted it to be. It was so fucking good. The feud lasted well into 2022. Sure, but its first beats were some of its best, with Punk obliterating MJF as a less famous Miz, only for the schoolyard jibes to give way to something actually profound, as MJF bared a different part of his soul, crescendoing in a dog collar match of pure carnage. After most people making their peace with never seeing CM Punk again, twice, it would turn out, it is buck wild that in the last few years he's had 2 of the best feuds of his career, and you best believe that's a spoiler for later on in this list. The drama that persists in following the man is wearying, for sure, but as it stands, it's not enough to distract me personally from the quality of the work he's currently doing, and reminding me why CM Punk has always been one of my very bestest boys. Runner-up, Hangman finishes the story. Shame about the actual title reign, though. 2022, the Triple H takeover. Fucking hell, what a year. AEW and WWE, the 2 most recognizable sports promotions in the world, saw themselves absolutely rocked by backstage scandal in 2022, with repercussions that gradually saw the 2 companies swap reputations, and also Cody Rhodes's. First, the American Nightmare shockingly left the company he'd created and even more shockingly turned up at WrestleMania 38. Then Vince McMahon, shortly after taking the worst stunner in recorded history at WrestleMania 38, was ousted from the company after the first first of what would turn out to be a great many horrible allegations. Triple H took over the book, and WWE's pay-per-view quality immediately fucking soared, with SummerSlam 2022 and Clash at the Castle and the following year's WrestleMania being especially fucking great. All Out 2022 saw the CM Punk backstage drama blow up, all the EVPs get suspended, and the first domino to fall in a sequence that would eventually lead to hell freezing over and CM Punk showing up at Survivor Series 2023 in WWE. No one who ever saw the Mountain Dew pitch black match is ever going to confuse Triple H with being a perfect booker, but ever since 2022, there's been a notable increase in long-term storytelling, narrative cohesion, and an altogether drop-off in incomprehensible bullshit. WWE may resemble a malware-ridden computer spamming you with pop-up ads, but at least it makes a fucking kind of sense again, and for that, I am thankful for 2022. Runner-up, Cody's boob headlines Hell in a Cell. 2023, Sammy Uso. Though I think most of us would rather hear a pet's obituary than the word bloodline at this point, can't deny that for a while, this was potentially the greatest story that WWE has ever told. A sprawling mafia tragedy driven by recognizable characters doing recognizable character things and pop-marked with legitimately stirring moments of brotherhood and betrayal. I present for your consideration my favorite pop of the last 10 years. That doesn't happen overnight. That is the product of literal months of good work. WWE parlayed an attention-grabbing changing of the guard with a genuinely absorbing story and turned their product hotter than it had been since the summer of Punk, where Vince's WWE had relied on constant and often bewildering subversion to try and maintain interest. 2023 proved that Triple H's reliance on expectation, knowing what the fans wanted but stretching it out so they were begging for it, these things yielded bigger, more satisfying returns. Triple H does occasionally let things play out for way too long. Fucking 2 years later, and the bloodline's still turning on itself, collapsing like John Wick falling down the stairs. But Sammy's rise to one of the main events of WrestleMania 39, that was sheer wrestling perfection. Runner-up, Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay, and Better Than You Baby showing up in AEW's time of need. And finally, 2024, Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. Over the last 5 years, Drew McIntyre has subtly worked his way into being one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I always liked him ever since the good old WCPW days until he betrayed us. I'm kidding. Sort of? Or am I? Yes. Maybe. But since the 2020 Rumble, a top 3 Rumble just BTW, his matches have been consistently great. And since turning heel in 2023, his character has been one of the best in the entire company. Combine him with one of my eternal faves, CM Punk, and WWE crafted a storyline that at multiple points could, and sort of did, explode in disaster and bracelets, but it ended up being some good old-fashioned blood-soaked, reality-tinged hatred that gave fans the best aspect of AEW character work and the best aspects of WWE pageantry to give us a near-perfect feud, born of accident, and isn't that always the way? See, Punk was originally supposed to face Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 40 for the World Heavyweight Championship, and that was a huge deal in itself, built from well-documented beef between the two men stretching back years. However, when Punk was accidentally injured by Drew in the Royal Rumble, the company pivoted, and McIntyre found himself promoted to the Troll Master General of WWE, dunking on everyone in his path with legitimate wit and a deep understanding of how funny happens in wrestling. Punk was hurt, but showed up to work, with both him and Drew taking it in turns to fuck with each other in an escalating series of pranks that the company managed to keep spinning until SummerSlam, no mean feat in the post-Mania slump. Yes, perhaps too much of the feud was focused around something you'd buy at Claire's Accessories, but this was a masterclass in how even in the face of your plans exploding like Terry Lamonge after a baked bean casserole, all you need is patience and talent, and you've got yourself a crisis unity. And runner-up, Cody finishes the story. Oh yes, that also happened this year. And those are my 10 favorite things from the decade of wrestling where you people have been unfortunate enough to know the name of Adam Blampier. Here is to the next 10, and then one more 10 after that, and then 4 more years after that, and then I'll be dead. So saith the prophecy. What have been your favorite moments of the past 10, yes, 10 years? Let me know in the comments, and until next time, I've been Adam from BlampCo Incorporated. Get back to work.